Hello, Utility Fleet World. It's Kurt Moreland, Associate Publisher with Utility Fleet Professional Magazine. And we've got another edition of our Under the UFP Hood. And we're going to continue to do a deep dive into how AI and technology can help fleet managers. And I'm so happy to have with me as our guest, Erin Gilchrist of IntelliShift. Say hello.
Hello. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here, Kurt. Thanks for having me.
Now, you know what really caught my attention was you were at our Incident Prevention Utility Safety Conference, our last one, which, by the way, is a friendly reminder if you want to see how fleets and safety overlap, get the safety manager's perspective. Our conference is going to be in Dallas at the Marriott, Allen, Texas, the week of October 21st. And I see you guys at a lot of trade shows. I give your company a lot of credit. You guys are very visible. And but on your business, your title is Fleet Evangelist.
Yes. I thought it was just going to be VP of Fleet, but I had no choice in this title, but I really like it because actually it really describes what I do. Fancy title, but it really fits what I'm into in the fleet industry right now and for IntelliShift. So it's awesome.
That is awesome. And so let's talk a little bit about that. A lot of challenges that utility fleets, and I'd like to think this podcast is, listened to by anybody who's either in fleets or a fleet manager. There's driving safety culture. What are some of the tips that you give or some of the things IntelliShift can do to help increase driving safety culture?
Yeah, so first I'll talk just a second about kind of who we are and what we do. So at IntelliShift, we consider ourselves like a next generation fleet intelligence platform. We say that because one, powerful, two, very easy to use. What we're doing is bringing in data from telematics, AI dash cams, digital inspections, and more, sort of to maximize the safety and efficiency for our customers. We have proprietary hardware and software, integration and implementation. We're all US based, so some differentiators in there for us. But I think what makes us the most different and where I come into the picture is our customer experience and our service that's both extremely consultative, which is unique in our industry and in our space right now. And we are bringing on new customers and retaining our customers on that specificity right there. I mean, not to mention, we like to say that we're on a mission to zero accidents with and for our customers and in the industry to drive real safety culture, which brings me to your sort of question there about how do we do safety culture? From my perspective, as a former longtime fleet manager of a very big fleet in a very big company, that's hard to do. I think a lot of organizations out there, and I think about utilities specifically because you think about what utility companies do and how safety is critical to their mission. But a lot of companies like electric and construction and utility aren't bringing safety into the cab, right? They sort of stop with equipment and personal protective equipment and the work site and the work zone. But I think if companies want to really get to what I would consider a true safety culture, they need to flip the script a little bit and think about safety all the way into the cab with their most precious asset, their people, and the most dangerous tool they'll ever issue, which is the vehicle. And if they talk about and treat the vehicle like a tool, then they would never dream of sending that tool out on a job with a human without equipping it properly, making sure it's fit to run that day. So think about how vehicle inspections evaluate the vehicle fitness for the day, and then that vehicle goes out and it's safer. It makes it to the customers you're trying to get to every day in your industry, as well as it protects the driver by having safety equipment that's on board to help the driver correct their own behaviors and habits, which we all have, as well as look out into the environment and protect the driver from what other people are doing. And that's kind of the scariest thing. The work zone of the vehicle is the roadways where everyone is,
Distracted drivers.
doing everything but driving right behind the wheel. So that's kind of my high level overview of how organizations can think about safety culture differently. But getting there is all about collaborating internally and breaking down silos between IT and engineering and HR and legal and operations and risk and safety and fleet. They have to get together and decide who they want to be and how they want to do it. And that collaborative group can really drive influence and change with the C-suite. And when they've done that, bringing that culture down to every facet of the organization will be a lot easier.
Yeah, definitely. And, one of the challenges I hear from our readers is that they get all this data from their telematics. And it's it's almost like drinking from a fire hose. It's too much. So it sounds like you guys collect the data, but also break it down for them and maybe even get into like a consultative role.
100%. So what we're doing is collecting, combining, and analyzing a wealth of data. Think about data coming from people systems and coming from warehousing and routing and the vehicles and the equipment and the tools coming into one place so that it can be scrubbed and normalized. And then, of course, analyzed to provide those insights that we all need every day to focus on the right things at the right times. And when organizations are overwhelmed by what they even see in our platform, for example, then they have someone beside them all along their journey with us to be that consultative arm to help them enhance, their efficiency and safety through things that we're seeing that maybe they're not seeing. We're also providing them some benchmarking so they can understand, hey, we can benchmark against ourselves, but how are we doing against other like fleets and in like industries? And that's something that we've recently started focusing on so that our customers can get even better and better. So it's definitely very consultative from our perspective.
Yeah, and as far as back to driver safety culture, have you run into any experiences with what works and what doesn't work with driver safety, like giving rewards or incentives or anything like that?
Absolutely. I've implemented lots of programs over my career, and what doesn't work is the stick. What does work is the carrot, right? It's positive reinforcement. It's also messaging and communication. And it took me and us at my former organization a long time to figure out how to not sound punitive, even when we weren't being punitive. So I would suggest and recommend for organizations to take this approach of treating the vehicle like a tool so that drivers have the mindset that they need to treat that tool just like all the other ones that help them be successful in the job that they're doing, that they're getting paid for every day, right? So think about, someone going up in a boom and they have a faulty harness. No way would they ever go up with a faulty harness. So it's like, why would they ever leave the shop in the morning or their home or wherever they start in a vehicle that hasn't been properly maintained, that doesn't have safety equipment on it to help them avoid accidents? So I think what works is helping drivers think of their vehicle as a tool, for the organization to treat the vehicle like a tool, just like they do all the others, and for the organizations to message their program like, we would never dream of putting you in this position out on these roadways in the most dangerous work site in the world, which is the U.S. roadways or national roadways, without properly equipping you. So I think flipping the script on safety, rewarding drivers for positive behavior, and it doesn't always have to be money. I loved reading these articles growing up, and this was when I was younger. My dad used to show me like the newspapers, and I remember seeing these pictures of UPS drivers who had driven millions of miles without an accident. And they got like a bomber jacket from UPS and, some accolades. And the drivers were so excited about that. So it doesn't have to be something big. It could just be a leaderboard where drivers get points for being at the top of the leaderboard for safe behavior. And then eventually maybe they get a branch party or they get a gift card. It doesn't have to be expensive. It just has to be rewarding and positive, in my opinion.
Yeah, that sounds encouraging. And I'm always looking for programs that work because, it's quite a big debate going on right now. And by the way, I'm really proud of our industry. They've always been ahead of the times as far as embracing technology. They've gone far beyond, GPS and are into a lot of technology. So that's why we're having some of these discussions. So you mentioned maintenance. Let's talk a little bit about that. What are all the maintenance used to be done on paper, and how can technology or AI, for that matter, help with maintenance or PMI?
Oh gosh, I love this question. So I think I like anything fleet. We can talk about everything fleet and safety and sustainability. When I think about maintenance, I think the fundamental part or the foundation for the best type of maintenance program is vehicle inspections, right? So it's understanding what's going on with the assets over and above what the asset tells you or what the driver tells you. So having this inspection that encompasses the vehicle and gets the vehicle off on a fitness journey, right? Every day and throughout its life cycle. And then the second piece to the inspection is the inspection then feeding the maintenance program. So that data flows from the inspection into the maintenance program. So there's visibility to what's going on with the asset every single day. And then, of course, the asset is going to share its own data through the ECM or whatever. It depends on if we're talking about a vehicle or yellow iron, doesn't matter. They can send coding and information so that the organization has an understanding of how the vehicle is performing throughout its life, when it's time to get maintenance, so it's not over-maintained or under-maintained. So we don't want to spend too much money. We want just-in-time maintenance. And I think the AI aspect of it comes in when we look at proactive and predictive analytics to say, we understand how this vehicle's been operating. We can predict how it will operate as long as we see some of these common denominators continue, like driver behavior is maintained behind the wheel, which has a huge effect on the vehicle's efficiency. And the preventative maintenance gets done on time or just in time, however you want to look at that. And then looking at how the asset's performed and identifying whether that asset's going to have a breakdown and being able to get out ahead of that, have parts in stock, the parts you want so you don't get upsold, have the technician available and ready to do the repairs, have the repairs done when it suits you as an organization, and get that vehicle back out on the road and productive right away. So again, fundamental, sort of foundation for maintenance is inspections, in my opinion.
Great answer. Well, we're going to have a little fun here now. I love a good celebrity encounter story. Let me find out one that you've had.
Yes. So I am an avid concert goer. I love live music of many genres, across many genres. I've been to more concerts than I'll ever admit openly here. And I was at a small theater here in Ohio, and I was seeing Bela Fleck, who is a world-renowned banjo player. I would argue he's the best on the planet. He can play classical music. He can play anything on a banjo, and he's phenomenal. And I've been seeing him live for many, many years. So I'm at this theater, and he's playing with his wife, who's an accomplished musician as well. She's incredible, Abigail Washburn. And they were doing a charity concert, and I put my little tickets in. So I donate my money. I put my tickets in the things that I'd like to win in the raffle. And they were raffling off a banjo that they had signed. Wow. And so my ticket got drawn. And so I'm just excited. And they invite me I thought they were just going to say, hey, stop by and see us, at the booth after, and somebody will give you the banjo. No, they invited me down. So I walked down to the stage. They come down off the stage and talk to me and thank me for being there, thank me for donating, introduce themselves, hand me the banjo in person. It was just, they're so lovely, so gracious, as I knew they would be. And it was just one of the most exciting times. I've met celebrities before, but I think that's my favorite encounter and one that's super memorable for me. Now I just have to learn how to play that banjo, my friend. That's the next step.
Well, I'm just glad that the banjo went to somebody who could really appreciate it.
I do. I love all types of music, and I've loved bluegrass for most of my life. So, and been to lots of shows. So I do appreciate it, and I loved meeting them. So that was fun.
Got to get you out here to Summerfest in Milwaukee. They have a fantastic, everybody knows that, like, I'm a huge Summerfest fan. The last week in June and the first week of July on the Milwaukee lakefront. So put that on.
That sounds lovely.
Under you. It's a great time and very, very inexpensive too. So
nice.
Yeah, that was a good one. I'll have to check that. What was the name of that artist again? The banjo player?
Bela Fleck. And for many years, he played with his band, the Flecktones, and each of those guys is just very unique and wonderful in their own right. And they even have members now that play with other bands. But yeah, very popular in the bluegrass scene. But Bela's been around forever, and he is a legend, a living legend. So you can still see him all the time. I just saw him like a couple of months ago. So good stuff.
Bluegrass is making a comeback. A friend of mine just turned.
It's amazing.
Billy Strings.
Oh, love Billy Strings and Green Sky Bluegrass. There's a lot of great bands that are touring. So if you haven't tried, you should, dabble, folks, into a little bluegrass. It takes the best of sort of folk and country and rock, and it just brings it all together, and it's a great sound.
Now, I spent a little time on your website, and I noticed one of the things that you said that your technology can help people do is help with sustainability. So since our main focus is electric utilities, they're obviously, again, leaders in EVs and alternative fueled vehicles. How can AI help with sustainability?
Yeah, I think if we think about how we start out on this journey, a lot of fleet managers are just simply overwhelmed by the fact that, gosh, I have to do electric to be sustainable. Well, maybe that's got to be part of your plan. But when I think about sustainability, I always say there's literally no silver bullet, right? So you have to break this down. The data that we provide and others like us really help fleets to hone in on where they need to focus. So let's start with driver behavior, number one way, right? When you can control that driver behavior behind the wheel, you increase the vehicle's efficiency and you reduce fuel consumption, right? You reduce waste, fuel consumption. So that's one sustainability effort. Plus, it's just a great move because it keeps your drivers safe. The second piece is focusing on idling and miles driven. So reducing idling as much as you can. This data helps you to do that, as well as think about unauthorized use of your assets that might be happening and cutting those miles driven down significantly by managing the times, places, people who are driving your vehicles. I think the third way is then think about the vehicles themselves. Vehicle selection is really important. Lightweighting your vehicles, reducing, recycling, and reusing upfit materials and other materials that you use on your jobs and in your vehicles day to day. So there's many, many ways to reduce your carbon footprint outside of, switching every vehicle to an electric vehicle. We know that's not possible. Mixed fleets are today and mixed fleets are the future. So using data to help you identify which vehicles are ripe for replacement to an EV is the way to go. So that's where you start. You really look at data and operation and drive cycle and miles driven per day and inputs like that to decide, where can I input an electric vehicle and start to test this in my fleet so that I have the weight in the range, in the upfit, and the other things that I might need to operate. So companies that have good data, like telematics and cameras and other technologies that provide this rich data, will help fleet managers identify sort of that place to start with EV.
Another term that I saw on your website is KPI, which stands for Key Performance Indicator. Tell us a little bit about that and how AI helps in that area.
Yeah, so I do a whole podcast on KPIs because not only should KPIs help guide us and help us reach our goals and our initiatives, reduce our cost, and help us to identify where we can do better and where we're doing well. So, measuring and managing our fleet is just a day-to-day responsibility that fleet managers and risk managers have. However, I would say that KPIs can do another really important thing in organizations, and it can get the operations team on your side and get them to do all the fleet to-dos you need them to do. So instead of just reporting out to your organization on total cost of ownership, fuel and maintenance costs per mile, and all those critical things, it's important to think about what operations is doing and create some KPIs they can relate to. How about letting your operations team know? So if you're a utility fleet and you have vehicles going out and doing work, why don't you let those leaders know how much fleet cost goes into every one of those stops? Because when you do that and they see how fleet cost cuts into their margin, maybe they'll get excited about wanting to reduce that to increase their margins, right? So it's kind of reworking your KPIs to operationalize them and getting those operations teams to hold hands with you and forge the mountain on reduction in cost and increase in efficiency. And then I think how AI helps naturally is this data is very, very rich, and it can help you hone in on all the areas maybe you couldn't see without it. Again, some of those key things that are driving costs up today: accidents. Accidents are not only costing more to get repaired, but they're taking a long time, just killing productivity. And we can't get vehicles as readily as we used to. So when a vehicle gets crashed or damaged, we can't just flip the switch and get a new one anymore. So it's about reducing accidents, increasing your preventative maintenance and on-time maintenance, reducing your carbon footprint through fuel reduction initiatives that are going to drive the kind of efficiencies that'll get your partners on board and wanting to help you on those key performance indicators that you create as a team. Again, I'm going to say so many times that breaking down that silo, or many silos maybe in your organizations, that are preventing you from achieving your KPIs and continuing to drive down cost and drive up efficiency. One is with operations. It's really creating a positive and strong relationships with your customer. If you're a fleet manager, your customer's operations. So it's really working on KPIs together and using data to achieve your goals.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought up supply chain, because I have heard that it's better, but yet I have a coworker who needed a part replaced on their car, and they waited almost a month for it. So, you got to be really proactive and just can't assume that part is, going to be readily available.
Yeah, that's why it's more critical than it ever has been to stick to the fundamentals. We can't control the supply chain. We can't control rising costs. But if we stick to the fundamentals and run our fleets in an efficient and sustainable way, then we can prevent some of the things that will put us in these predicaments, like vehicles off the road for long periods of time because we didn't inspect them properly. The life of our vehicles being minimized because we haven't operated them efficiently and safely. So if we go back to the fundamentals and start with safe driving practices and vehicle inspections and on-time maintenance, we can prevent a lot of the things that are going on around us that are uncontrollable, right?
Yeah, well, I want you to let me know and let our listeners know what your podcast is so that we can tune in.
Yeah, great. So it is the Straight Talk on Fleet, and you can find that wherever you stream or listen or watch podcasts. So think Apple, Spotify, just about anywhere. You can also go to IntelliShift.com and find me there, find clips and full podcasts. And I'm recording later today. I'm recording episode 55, believe it or not. In just 2 short years, we've had a lot of action on the podcast front. And I'm typically posting those out on LinkedIn as well. So you can find me on LinkedIn and connect with me. And I'd love that. The more the merrier in this fight for efficiency and safety, right?
We can all learn together. And again, if you're going out to any trade shows, look for the IntelliShift booth. They're very active and visible on the trade show circuit. I see you guys out there a lot. And thank you for being an exhibitor at our incident prevention safety conference too, which shows.
Of course, we're passionate about that. So it was actually a really great show. So thanks for having us.
Well, thanks so much. How often do you post your podcast?
About every other week, I'm putting out new content. And then in between, I'm doing little snippets from the last podcast. So if you don't have time to watch a full podcast, I'm always putting short 1 to 2 minute clips out there that have some of the meatier quotes and ideas from my guests or from me out on LinkedIn. So grab a quick clip if you don't have time for a full podcast watch. But yeah, it's fun. I'm enjoying it. And it's just so great to have all these wonderful guests from the industry sharing their insights with the fleet community and helping us sort of build a community of people who can learn from each other and grow our careers.
I love it. Compilations are the new, thing, and
absolutely
for attention span too.
Yeah, that's me. So I get it.
People can find out more about IntelliShift. You guys probably have YouTube videos and things like that.
Of course. Yep. Anywhere you find streaming content, or again, we house it all on IntelliShift.com. Jump on there and go under our resources tab, and you can find about anything you need.
You are very enthusiastic and passionate about this industry, and it's an honor to have you as a guest on this podcast. And thanks for all the information you contributed.
Of course, it's a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to seeing you guys out and about really soon.
We're out there too. We try and hit as many of the fleet and construction and safety trade shows as we possibly can. So this wraps up another one of the UFP Hood podcasts. Again, I want to thank my guest, Erin Gilchrist of IntelliShift, and just want to remind everybody to roll safe out there.
The views, information, and opinions expressed during this podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of Utility Business Media and its employees. It is strongly recommended that you discuss any actions or policy changes with your management prior to implementation.